So, Waite Discipuli, as we have worked our way through the Subarani textbook, we've read stories that have taken us all around the Roman world. And for those of you that have been OG Subarani readers from the beginning, we met Sabina and her family in the Suburra of Rome, right? That's why the textbook's called Subarani. And then Sabina was sent, by ship to Arlate, where she met Alexander. So we learn a little bit about Gallia. And his family was from Lusitania, I believe, and we visited Canimbriga and some Roman mining activities taking place in the Iberian Peninsula, as well as some military unrest and some of Otho's faction we first encountered in Lusitania, or at least Lucilius did to an extent. And then Sabina and Alexander traveled to Carthage, and we learned a bit about the animal trade from North Africa to cities across the Roman Empire. We also had we had a flashback at some point. We had some characters who were from Britannia originally, or a woman named Katia and her husband Gisco, who was actually a Roman soldier originally from Numidia. And so we learned about places in Britannia as well. But Sabina and Alexander were living in Carthago, and then Sabina got on a boat headed for Pompeii, where she encountered some of her friends from Rome that she hadn't seen in a long time, because they'd all kind of fled the Suburra after the fire in 64 under Nero's reign, right? That fire that enabled Nero to build his Domus Aurea. And the last time we saw him, Alexander got on a ship to follow Sabina. We also had a little detour to Ephesus over here in chapter 27, where we met Rufina from the Suburra, Sabina's aunt, who was working here in Ephesus and kind of had established a new life here. And there were other familiar, I think Lucrio was with her, whereas Gisco and Julia and others had wound up in Pompeii. She had somehow wound up in Ephesus. And then we've had these chapters about Lucilius's education in Athens and Nero's jaunt around Greece, because he was a Hellenophile, right? Somebody who really loves Greek culture. And so our last few chapters have been at Olympia and Delphi and parts of Achaia, right, or Graecia. Pulled up a better map over here. And this one kind of shows the year that Nero is killed, which is 68, which we haven't quite gotten there yet, right? Nero is still alive. These different factions, these would be the successive four emperors, right? Galba will become emperor immediately following Nero, but then in just 6 months, he will be replaced by Otho, who will rule for just 3 months, and then Vitellius takes over for half the year before Vespasian becomes the last emperor of the year 69 AD, aka the year of the four emperors, and he makes it for 10 years, right? He establishes a whole dynasty. His sons will rule after him. They're called the Flavian emperors. He built the Flavian amphitheater, which you know more familiarly as the Colosseum, and you can see that he had support in these areas, that Otho had support here in Lusitania. That's why we met him there. That Galba also had support in Spain, Vitellius in Gallia and Britannia. And I guess the red here, just the main parts of the Roman Empire, maybe the parts that were supportive of Nero, I think maybe is what this map is trying to show us. But you can see Ephesus on the map here, in Asia, close to the coast. You can also see Athens and Corinth and Delphi's up here. And the reason I bring all of this up is because we're about to read the myth, to look at the myth of Jason and the Argonauts, which also will have us sailing across the Mediterranean world. Jason is originally from Greece, but the golden fleece that he is famous for searching for in the myth of Jason and the Argonauts is in Colchis, which is over here off the coast of the Black Sea. Maybe farther. I wish it were on the map here. With the Pontus Euxinus is the Black Sea. And to the Greeks, this was like the edge of the known world, you know? We could also go north and be like, oh, this was kind of the edge of the known world to them as well. So the idea of someone taking a voyage from Greece to Colchis is a crazy long voyage. And so I wanted to start us with an orientation to the map here. And it's just a little bit better than the map that's in your textbook, but not a bad map to look at either. All right, let's look at Jason and the Argonauts. Jason and the Argonauts was made famous recently-ish in American culture by a movie in the late 60s of the same title, but it was a terrible movie. Like, this is a scene from it. And then I think there was a mini-series that we're going to watch we're going to watch some of it as a movie in class later, but we're going to look at the basics of the myth first. And then you're going to look at the myth from is there any history to this perspective in the next video that you'll watch after this one. All right. So slideshow. How do I? Can we just do a little F5? No. Maybe not. Can I go to presenter mode? No, that's not it. Which one? F9? Oh, that wasn't it. Okay, we're just not going to look at it from the slideshow presenter view. We're going to go from here. All right, so let's learn about Jason and the Argonauts and why. It's funny because it sounds like he has an American name, but in Greek, Iason. And this is a later Greek myth. It's one of my favorite Greek myths, written by a guy named Apollonius of Rhodes. The Argonautica is one of the latest epics. So it's way newer than the Iliad and the Odyssey. And what I like about it is, you know guys like Theseus for killing the Minotaur and Hercules for doing his 12 labors and being super strong and stuff. And some characters who, like Odysseus's dad and familiar characters from other epics and other myths, will all get together in like an Avengers type adventure in the story of Jason and the Argonauts. So it's or not all, but many of these famous characters from throughout Greek mythology together going on this quest, which is pretty neat. Orpheus, our musician, is going to take part in it, so it's neat. All right, so a little bit of Latin, of course. Iason filius erat Aisonis, regis Iolci, which is in Graecia, or Iason erat filius Aisonis, of a guy named Aison, who was the Rex Iolcus. And so in my positive here, he was the son of Aison, and then this is also genitive, going with Aison, the Rex Iolcus, right? The king in the genitive, because Aison's in the genitive, and then of Iolcus in the genitive, because of Iolcus. And I say in Graecia, not locative, right? Because it's a big place. I could also have said in Achaia. All right. And Mater Eos erat Polymele in some versions of the myth. In other versions of the myth, she has a different name. But we're going to use the name Polymele and Aison. He had a Scelestus Patruus, and a Patruus is the frater patris, the frater of your pater. And his Scelestus Patruus Peleus usurped the throne of Iolcus. And we've seen that in other myths, right? We know that from the story of Romulus and Remus, right? That their evil uncle Amulius usurped the throne from Numitor, and that's why he made the mother be a Vestal Virgin, and she wasn't supposed to have kids, and then she had kids with Mars, and then we put them in a basket, and a she-wolf found them, and all that kind of stuff, right? There's always a Scelestus Patruus who usurps the throne. That's a motif. Okay, and according to some versions, Peleus, the evil uncle, spared Aison but imprisoned him, and in other versions he killed him, and he marries Polymele. So he steals his throne and his wife. And Polymele pretends that she's like, no, I didn't have a son. My baby was born, but he was stillborn. He didn't survive childbirth. So that she could hide him, and Peleus wouldn't kill him, because he is, of course, the rightful heir to the throne, and you're supposed to get rid of the rightful heir to the throne. So Jason was saved. And how she does that is Polymele Iasonem mittit ad Charonem, who is a centaurus. So here also in the accusative case, going with Charonem. Sorry, that should say Chironem, not Chiron. He's the boatman of the underworld. This should be Chiron. Okay, so she sends him to Chiron the centaur, educari, passive infinitive, to be educated. Now that you guys know purpose clauses, I could also say ut eruditionem cipiat, so that he might receive an education, or ut educator, so that he might be educated, or raised is another good way to translate that, right? In order to be raised. So a centaur is going to raise him. Peleus oraculum consuluit. Perfect tense. We consulted an oraculum, and we know what those are now. And the oracle said to him, Cave virum unam soleam gerentem, participial phrase describing the weir, wearing one sandal. Beware of the one-sandaled man. And so time passes, and Peleus maybe forgets about that cautionary tale from the oracle. Let's say 15, 18 years go by. And Peleus fecit or held some ludos. He held some games. And Iason nunc adulescens, now an adolescens, ad iulcum rediit, in order to participate in the games, but secretly, sciens, knowing that he, heredem verum esse, man, this is bad proofreading, knowing himself to be the verum ere, the heredem, the true heir, the verus heres, knowing that he was the true heir. And a little bit of stuff happened when Jason made his way to Iolcus to participate in these games and perhaps to get his throne back. And that's that en route to Iolcus, Jason helped an old woman cross a stream. And she evanescets, she vanishes. And he realizes that in crossing the stream, he amicided his soleam. Well, the old lady was actually Juno. And what she does is she benedicits eum. She blesses him. She gives him a blessing. And so when he shows up to Iolcus, he's going to be the dude unam soleam gerens. All right, so Peleus sees that he's wearing just the one sandal and knows something's up, and there's this whole, I'm the rightful heir. Like, no, okay, if you're the rightful heir, I'll give you your throne if you go get the golden fleece, which had some magical powers. Like, maybe it can grant the person owning it eternal life. And so Peleus really wants the golden fleece, and it's mythically in a garden at the edge of the world in Colchis, guarded by a dragon. And of course, this is the Greek concept of a dragon, like a giant snake. And there's our sheep's fleece hanging from the tree branch on some pottery image. The vellus aureum, vellus, velleris, third declension neuter noun, so our adjective aureum in the neuter form, the vellus aureum. And here's the backstory of where the golden fleece came from. Olin, once upon a time, a guy named Athamas, a Rex Graecus, married a cloud goddess named Nephele. And Athamas and Nephele had two kids whose names were Phrixus and Helle. And then Athamas dumped Nephele for another woman named Ino, who fits this wicked stepmom motif and plots to kill the kids, Phrixus and Helle. And Nephele, their mother, sends a winged golden ram, which is a male sheep, right? A winged golden ram to rescue the kids by flying them to safety, because it's a ram and it's gold and it also flies. And if you're wondering where winged golden rams come from, it's because it was a child of Poseidon, and all of Poseidon's children are weird creatures. So Poseidon and a nymph created this winged golden ram. And so there's Phrixus and Helle on the back of this winged golden ram. And while flying on the ram, Helle falls off over a body of water that is now called the Hellespont, meaning Helle's Sea. Although her name really just means like Greek lady, so Greek lady sea or Greek sea. All of these names have some significance to them. But Phrixus keeps going. He's like, whatever, I guess my sister's not going to make it. So he keeps going, and he flies all the way to Colchis on the eastern coast of the Black Sea, modern-day Georgia or Armenia for you geography fans out there. And to thank the gods for rescuing him, he does the only appropriate thing, which is sacrificing the ram to its father Poseidon. And the king there, Aeetes, is like, sure, you can stay here and be a part of my family, probably marry into the family, and we'll take this special ram's fleece that rescued you, and we're going to hang this fleece in a garden and guard it by a dragon. So that's the story of the fleece, and Jason's got to go get it. So he's going to need a crew. He's going to need a ship. The ship's called the Argo. And his crew includes such famous people as Hercules, Orpheus, Atalanta, famous runner, right? Castor and Pollux, the Gemini, the brothers of Helen of Troy, the twin